Hi, my name is Lynn Calloway, and today we're going to be discussing 10 side hustles you should be considering if you were recently laid off, or if you're just looking for ways to make extra money. These 10 side hustles are side hustles that I've done as well as my husband. Some of these are hustles that folks that we've known that have also done them as well. But sit tight, watch it to the end, you won't regret it. I'm Lynn Calloway, your go-to expert for everything entrepreneurship. From building successful brands to strategizing with giants like Facebook and Amazon, I've done it all. But that's not all. I'm also a mom, a wife, and a new owner of a 400 square foot tiny home. Here you'll get an insider's look into growing a business, balancing family, and living sustainably. So hit the subscribe button and let's embark on this authentic journey together. The first side hustle on the list is delivery services. These services you may have used yourself, such as Uber Eats, Postmates, GoPuff, Amazon Flex. On average, these services will bring you in about $4,100 a month, but that really depends on where you are, where your location is, and the demand. For an example, if you're located in Atlanta, you're probably going to bring in a little bit more money than if you were located in, say, Asheville, North Carolina, which is a beautiful place, by the way. But in terms of the traffic, you're comparing oranges to apples. What you're gonna need if you're participating in a delivery service is a car or a scooter or a bike. If you've ever visited New York City, you may have seen most of these folks on a bike, and the way that New York City is kind of laid out, it makes it more conducive for that in terms of having bike lanes and stuff like that. So just really depending on your location, a bike or a scooter might be feasible. Another good thing about working for one of these services is that you can set your own schedule. And this really comes in handy if you're a caregiver, or if you have another job, or if you just want the extra time to be able to relax or be creative or do whatever it is that you do. Being able to set your own schedule and being flexible in that way is really, really beneficial. Number 2 on my list is Remotasks, and specifically AI training, because they offer like different roles under their banner. But for AI training, you really want to be an expert in your field, whether that's marketing, human resources, graphic design, legal, that sort of thing. With Remotasks, you can expect to make somewhere around $1,600 to $2,400 a month. What you're going to need with Remotasks is definitely a computer and really your time. You can do these tasks really anywhere from the comfort of your home, or if you're traveling. They're really flexible in that regard. With Remotasks, you can also set your own schedule. If you want to allocate 5 hours a week or 15 hours a week or even 30 hours a week, those opportunities are available for you. You want to be prepared to take an exam for the AI training for your specific field. It is a quick exam where they're really testing your knowledge in said field. Once you pass that exam, you'll be able to move on to set up your account and start doing the task that is going to be assigned to you. The third side hustle on the list is selling digital products. These products can be notepads, journals, a how-to guide, if you have the time to write a book, a template. We've used Airbnb templates before as a digital product before I started creating them from scratch, and they really came in handy. So these are just easy items that you can create out of Canva, or if you have graphic design skills, you can leverage Adobe Suite to really create these PDFs and these items. The platforms that you're going to want to do to actually sell the items is Amazon, as well as Koji and other similar platforms. I've used Koji before. Koji is pretty straightforward and really easy to use. I've also used Amazon, and specifically when selling a book, you have to use their KDP feature to set everything up, which is a little involved, but once you get the hang of it, it will be really easy. In terms of your earnings, it's really going to depend on how many digital products you're selling, and really how you're marketing it. The more eyes that come across your items, the more you'll sell. So it really just depends. The fourth side hustle on the list is freelancing. I've done this for probably over a decade, just offering my marketing services. I've done this in between jobs, when I didn't have a job, really any skill that you have, you can turn it into freelance work, especially if it's a service-based skill. With freelancing, you're going to want to leverage a platform like Fiverr. If you have your marketing engine set up where you can bring in traffic and convert leads, great. You're definitely a step ahead of most folks. But if you're really looking for one of those out-of-box platform that really connects you to other folks looking for your service, you're going to want to leverage, say, a Fiverr or Upwork. Things to consider when offering your services as a freelancer is just make sure that you're getting your pricing right. You're taking a lot of time out of your day to offer this service. You might even have to get retrained on whatever it is that you're offering as a service. And you just want to make sure that you're being fair to yourself. You may even have a team, so you might even want to be sure to account for the costs around hiring a staff. So just make sure that you're doing your numbers right and you know that you're selling your service at a fair price. Also, another important thing is just building out your client list. So that goes back to marketing and generating leads. Another cool but interesting way to get your first client is to tap into your old jobs. I've done this before, and you'll be surprised by just calling your own old boss and letting them know that you have the time and you want to offer your service back to the company. You'll be surprised how quickly they'll bring you on as a 1099 freelancer. So these are things to really consider when offering your service as a freelancer. Number 5 is Ridesharing. This is those platforms that most of us have used, like Uber or Lyft. What you're going to need if you decide to drive for Uber or Lyft is a car. If you don't have a car, they do have a leasing program where you can actually rent one of their cars in order to drive. I have heard folks making somewhere around $1,000 a week, so that'll put you in the $4,000 a month territory. But similar to the delivery service side hustle, it really just depends on your location and your area. If you don't actually want to drive your car around, Turo is actually an option. It's not technically really ride sharing, but if you have an extra car, or if you're not really using your car because maybe you're working from home or you're caught up doing something else, you can put your car on the Turo platform. And similar to Airbnb, Turo allows for folks who actually need your car to connect with a vehicle, and you're able to make money off of that. I've done Turo in the past, and it's a really interesting platform. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. I mean, yeah, you're making money, but not everyone's going to treat your car like you would. So you might find yourself really having to maintain your car a little bit more than what you typically would. But, if you're really looking for ways to make money, this might not be a big deal to you. But I do want to point that out. Number 6 on the list is househacking. And househacking is probably one of my favorite side hustles on the list, just because we're still doing it, and the way we set everything up is just so evergreen, and we really don't have to think about a lot. You can leverage platforms like Airbnb, VRBO, Landing. There are a ton of platforms out there that allow you to list your property so that you can find guests who need a place to stay. If you have a room, a basement, Airstream, you can essentially turn any property into a money-earning listing. You might even be down on Airbnb. They've been in the news a lot lately where cities are really cracking down on how they're being used. If you are someone that's affected by it, you just got to get creative. There's still ways to make money. You might just have to shift your strategy just a little bit. So maybe not invest so much and so heavily into short-term rentals. You might have to target a different demographic that are looking for longer-term housing, like medical professionals or students or just long-term tenants in general. If you're looking for a step-by-step guide on how to house hack and you just want to get more information and more tips on how to create an evergreen money-generating machine, look in the description. I've included a link. It is a book that I've written and my husband Mario edited called The Self-Funded Home, and it really gives you that insight that you really need to get you going. Number 7 is companion care. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but companion care is essentially non-medical care for the elderly. As baby boomers are starting to retire, they're going to need folks to really help them around the house. Companion care can provide care such as taking them to the store, taking them for appointments. Maybe you accompany them on a walk. You're just really there for them to keep them company. You might want to check your local state regulations around providing care to the elderly, but most states, you don't really need a certification like nursing or something like that to provide companion care. Earnings really depend on your location and the demand for elderly care, but you can expect to make about $400 to $300 a month. In terms of where you're going to find these sorts of jobs, you're going to want to leverage platforms like care.com, where you can post your services, and if someone's looking for the skills that you have, they'll reach out. It might be helpful to have a car because you're probably going to be running errands for your client, and you don't want to be in a situation where like you're not able to go out and get whatever they may need. So I would definitely suggest having a car if you're going to provide this as a service. Number 8 on the list is teaching English. You can make somewhere around $4,500 a month with teaching English. Some of the platforms that you might want to leverage is VIP Kids, Cambly, as well as Teachaway. There are much more, but those are like the top 3 platforms that allow teaching English to students abroad. Many of these platforms do require that you have a TEFL certification. For those platforms that don't require that you have this certification, they will require that you have tutoring already in your background as well as a college degree. Number 9 on the list is selling on Amazon. You can essentially sell anything on Amazon. As I mentioned earlier, you can sell digital products, but if you're looking for actual physical products and you want to get an idea on what that should be, you might want to leverage platforms like Jungle Scout. These platforms will give you the analytics on what's trending and what's not. So I would highly suggest that you leverage something like this before you start buying inventory and negotiating deals with manufacturers. Speaking of manufacturers, you're going to want to kind of have that lined up if you're not making the product yourself, and be sure to refresh yourself on the policies around private labeling and having manufacturers for products, just because I have heard of Amazon being a little bit strict on that. I've sold on Amazon before, but the product was something that we created in-house with our own manufacturing facility. So I really didn't have to be as versed on that. So I would definitely say check that out. But there are third-party manufacturers that specialize in drop shipping that will not only develop your product, but also ship directly to Amazon FBA. Amazon FBA is different from fulfilling by merchant, just because Amazon will handle all of the fulfillment for you if you go through Amazon FBA. So it makes it really easy because you don't have to have any inventory on hand and have to worry about shipping directly to customers. So I would highly recommend Amazon FBA. Number 10, the final side hustle on the list is house sitting and woofing. This is a bit of a bonus one because depending on how you negotiate your housing through house sitting as well as woofing, it could just provide shelter versus straight up income, which, you know, if you're in a situation where you've recently lost your job, or maybe you just want to travel, you don't want to be confined to one place for a really long time. House sitting and woofing is a great way to kind of travel and make sure that you have shelter. WOOFing stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. And this one is like really, really near and dear to my heart just because Mario and I did this years ago. After our AmeriCorps assignments, which we did up in upstate New York, we decided to go to New York City and we could not afford it. So not only could we not afford it, we wanted to still continue to do our work in urban gardening and urban farming. So we decided to sign up for woofing, and we found a really cute organic community garden in Bed-Stuy. And so we helped this community for a little bit with just planting, gardening, and renovating their space. And this helped provide shelter while also being able to do what we love, which is sustainable farming and sustainable gardening. During that time, Mario actually started working for the largest rooftop farm in America, which is called Brooklyn Grange. If any of you are in the Brooklyn area, head down to the Brooklyn Navy Yards and try to sign up for a tour. You will be amazed. It's just a really, really beautiful space. So that's just an example of being creative when you have limited resources. And that concludes today's video on 10 side hustles you should be considering in the event you're laid off or if you're just looking for extra ways to make money. If you liked today's video, be sure to leave it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.